The year was 2847, and the galaxy belonged to the Union. Admiral Rex stood on the bridge of his massive warship, the Dominion's Edge. Through the huge windows, he could see thousands of other ships floating in perfect formation. Each ship was bigger than a city. Each ship carried enough firepower to destroy a planet. This was the Grand Fleet, and it was the most powerful military force the galaxy had ever seen. Rex was proud of what the Union had built. For 300 years, 17 different alien species had worked together to bring peace to the galaxy. The Ketheri, like Rex, were natural leaders and military planners. The Velthari could read minds and share thoughts across vast distances. The Quindar built machines that could think faster than any living brain. The Corvani were born warriors, who never retreated from a fight. Together they had created something beautiful. No more wars between species. No more fighting over planets and resources. The Union controlled everything, and everyone was safe. Rex walked slowly around his command center. Officers from different species worked at their stations, their alien faces lit by the glow of computer screens. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few looked almost like walking insects. But they all wore the same uniform. They all served the same cause. "Admiral," called out his communications officer, a young Quindar named Zektar. "We are receiving reports from the Outer Rim patrol ships." Rex nodded. The Outer Rim was the edge of Union space where old dead stars floated in the darkness. Nothing interesting ever happened out there. It was just empty space and forgotten worlds that no one cared about anymore. "What is it?" Rex asked. "Sir, Patrol Group 7 has found something unusual. They say there is a ship." Rex raised an eyebrow. Ships in the Outer Rim were not uncommon. Sometimes old cargo vessels broke down and drifted into the darkness. Sometimes pirates tried to hide in the empty systems. The patrol ships could handle these problems easily. Just one ship? What kind of threat rating? That is the strange part, sir. The ship does not match any design in our database. The patrol commander says it looks primitive. Now Rex was interested. In 300 years of Union control, they had cataloged every known ship design in the galaxy. Trade vessels, military ships, exploration craft, even ancient relics from dead civilizations. If this ship was not in their database, it was either very new or very old. "Show me," Rex ordered. The main screen at the front of the bridge came to life. The image was fuzzy and filled with static, transmitted across thousands of light years from the patrol ships. But Rex could see the shape clearly enough. The ship was ugly. That was his first thought. Every Union vessel was designed to be beautiful as well as functional. Smooth curves, elegant lines, hulls that gleamed like jewels in the starlight. This ship looked like someone had taken a hammer to a block of metal and called it finished. It was roughly 800 meters long, much smaller than any serious warship. The hull was dark gray and covered in what looked like armor plating. Strange angular structures stuck out from the sides like broken bones. There were no smooth curves, no artistic touches. Just brutal, functional design. Analysis? Rex asked his science officer, Commander Yilmoth. A tall Velthari with pale blue skin studied the readings carefully. "The hull composition is unknown, Admiral. Our sensors cannot penetrate it properly. The energy signature is also unusual. Very low power output, almost like the ship is running on minimal systems. Weapons? We can see what appear to be gun ports along the hull, but the design suggests kinetic weapons, not energy-based systems. Very primitive technology, Admiral. No civilized species has used kinetic weapons for over 1,000 years." Rex almost smiled. Kinetic weapons meant bullets and missiles, simple projectiles that flew through space and hit their targets with brute force. They were useless against modern shield technology. A single Union frigate could laugh off an attack from 100 ships using such old weapons. Origin? Unknown. The ship bears markings we cannot translate. The language does not match any in our database. Could it be from outside the galaxy? Possible, but unlikely. The design suggests it was built using materials and techniques found in this galaxy. More likely it is a relic from some extinct species that we never encountered. Rex made his decision. "Signal the Grand Fleet. We will investigate personally." His bridge crew looked surprised. The Grand Fleet was the Union's ultimate military force, 10,000 of the most advanced warships ever built. It seemed like overkill to use such power against a single primitive vessel. But Rex had not become admiral of the Grand Fleet by taking chances. Unknown meant dangerous, until proven otherwise. And if this ship really was from an unknown species, it could be the discovery of the century. The Union scientists would want to study it carefully. "Sir," Zektar spoke up again. "Should we attempt communication with the unknown vessel?" "Of course. Standard first contact protocols, mathematical sequences, prime numbers, basic universal constants. If there is intelligent life aboard that ship, we will know soon enough." The Grand Fleet began to move. 10,000 ships, ranging from small destroyers to massive dreadnoughts that stretched across multiple kilometers. They moved in perfect formation, their engines creating a light show that could be seen from neighboring star systems. As they traveled toward the outer rim, Rex studied the images of the strange ship. Something about it bothered him, though he could not say what. The design was primitive, yes, but there was something else. Something about the way it was built that suggested purpose beyond simple function. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported, "we will reach the unknown vessel in 6 hours." Rex nodded. 6 hours to solve a mystery that might change their understanding of the galaxy. He looked forward to it. In the outer darkness, far from the Union's bright worlds and busy trade routes, the strange ship continued its slow drift through empty space. Its hull was scarred and battle-worn, covered in armor that had seen real combat. The markings on its sides were in a language that the Union had never learned, from a species they had written out of their history books. But inside that dark, silent ship, lights were beginning to glow. Systems that had been running on minimal power were coming online. Weapons that had been sleeping were beginning to wake up. The ship had been waiting for a long time. Its crew had been patient, watching, learning, preparing. They had monitored Union communications for decades, studying their enemies' strengths and weaknesses. They had planned for this moment. The galaxy had forgotten their name. The Union believed their species was extinct, wiped out centuries ago, when their homeworld went silent. The galaxy was about to remember that humans do not die quietly. They had returned, and they were ready for war. The Grand Fleet arrived at the coordinates like a storm of metal and light. 10,000 ships spread out in a perfect circle around the strange vessel, each one pointing its weapons at the dark hull floating in the void. Admiral Rex stood at the center of his command bridge, watching the tactical display. The unknown ship looked even smaller now, surrounded by the massive Union fleet. It was like a single stone sitting in the middle of a metal ocean. "All ships report ready, Admiral," announced Commander Yilmoth. "We have the target completely surrounded. It cannot escape." Rex nodded. The ship had not moved since they arrived. It just drifted silently, showing no signs of life or activity. Its dark hull absorbed their sensor beams like a hungry shadow. "Begin standard scanning procedures," Rex ordered. Dozens of Union science ships directed their most powerful sensors at the mysterious vessel. Energy beams swept across its hull, trying to see inside, trying to understand what they were dealing with. The results were frustrating. "Sir," reported the chief science officer, "the hull material is unlike anything in our database. It seems to absorb and scatter our sensor beams. We cannot get clear readings of the interior." "What about the composition?" "Unknown alloy. Very dense, very strong. The construction appears crude, but the materials are actually quite advanced." Rex studied the readings on his screen. The ship was 800 meters long and roughly cylindrical, with various structures and weapon ports built into its hull. It looked like it had been designed by someone who cared more about function than beauty. Life signs? Impossible to determine with the sensor interference. But the ship is clearly artificial, not a natural object. On the other side of the fleet, Captain Jinha stood in the command center of the human vessel, Indomitable Will. Unlike the bright open bridge of Rex's ship, the human command center was dark and cramped. Every surface was covered with screens, controls, and weapon systems. The air hummed with the sound of machines working at full capacity. Jinha was a tall man with black hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. He wore a simple gray uniform with no decorations or rank insignia. He did not need symbols to show his authority. His crew obeyed him because they respected him, not because of the rank on his uniform. "Report," he said quietly. Commander Ha-Rin turned from her station. She was younger than Jinha, but her eyes held the same hard intelligence. 10,000 enemy vessels, Captain. They have us completely surrounded. Standard Union formation, heavy ships on the outside, fast attack craft on the inside. Weapons, plasma cannons, quantum torpedoes, particle beam arrays, standard Union technology. Nothing we have not seen before. Jinha nodded. For 3 centuries, humanity had studied every Union weapon, every ship design, every tactical manual they could find. They knew their enemy better than the enemy knew himself. "Communications Officer Quan," Jinha called out. A young man at the communications station looked up. "Yes, Captain? Are they attempting to contact us?" "Yes, sir. Standard first contact. Protocols. Mathematical sequences, prime numbers, basic universal constants. They are transmitting on multiple frequencies." "And our response?" "Silent as ordered, sir." Jinha smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. Let the Union think they were dealing with primitives who did not understand their signals. Let them believe they held all the advantages. On Rex's ship, the communications officer was growing, frustrated. "Admiral, we have been transmitting for 2 hours with no response. Either the ship is empty or whoever is inside does not understand our signals. Or they are choosing not to respond," suggested Commander Yilmoth. Rex considered this. What would be the purpose of staying silent? Perhaps they are afraid. A single ship against our entire fleet would have good reason to fear. Or perhaps they are studying us just as we are studying them. The thought sent a small chill down Rex's spine. He pushed it away. What could a primitive vessel learn from studying the Grand Fleet? Their weapons were useless against Union shields. Their single ship could not possibly threaten 10,000. "Sir," the tactical officer called out, "I am detecting some unusual energy readings from the target." "What kind of readings?" "Very low level. It appears they are conducting their own scans of our fleet." Rex almost laughed. "Let them look. What harm can it do?" Inside the indomitable will, the harm was already being done. Human computers, far more advanced than anything the Union possessed, were analyzing every ship in the enemy fleet. They recorded energy signatures, weapon configurations, shield frequencies, and engine specifications. They identified command ships, ammunition stores, and structural weak points. "Analysis complete, Captain," reported Ha-Rin. "We have full tactical data on all enemy vessels." "Weaknesses?" "Many. Their ships are large and powerful, but they have not fought a real war in centuries. Their formations are rigid, predictable. Their shields are strong against energy weapons but have gaps we can exploit." "Time to engagement?" "Ready when you are, sir." Jinha was not ready yet. He wanted the Union to make the first move, to be the aggressor. When humanity struck back, it would be justified defense, not unprovoked attack. On Rex's bridge, patience was running thin. "Admiral," suggested the weapons officer, "perhaps we should demonstrate our capabilities. A warning shot across their bow might encourage them to communicate." Rex thought about this. A show of force was standard procedure when dealing with uncooperative vessels. A low-power plasma burst, just enough to get their attention without causing real damage. "Very well. Select 3 cruisers. Have them fire warning shots minimum. Power. Let our mysterious visitors see what Union weapons can do." The orders went out across the fleet. 3 heavy cruisers moved into position, their main guns charging with brilliant blue energy. The weapons were set to lowest power, just enough to light up the darkness and show the unknown ship that the Union meant business. "Weapons ready. Admiral." Fire. 3 beams of plasma energy lanced out from the Union cruisers. They struck the space just in front of the human vessel, creating brilliant flashes of dissipating energy. The display was beautiful and terrifying, a demonstration of power that could level mountains. For a moment, space was silent. Inside the indomitable will, Jinha watched the light show without expression. "They fire first," he said quietly. "Orders." "Captain?" asked Haran. Jinha looked around his command center. His crew was ready. His ship was ready. Humanity was ready. For 300 years, they had prepared for this moment. 300 years of planning, building, and waiting. The galaxy had abandoned them, left them to die in the darkness between stars. But humans do not die. They adapt. They grow stronger. "Execute Protocol Lazarus," Jinha said. Around the bridge, his crew began flipping switches and pressing buttons. Systems that had been hidden came online. Weapons that had been sleeping began to wake up. The true nature of the indomitable will was about to be revealed. The Union had fired the first shot. Now it was humanity's turn to respond. The moment Captain Jinha spoke those two words, everything changed. Protocol Lazarus. The indomitable will began to transform. What the Union had thought was crude armor plating suddenly moved. Sections of the dark hull slid apart with mechanical precision, revealing the ship's true nature underneath. Admiral Rex watched in growing alarm as the small primitive vessel became something else entirely. The ugly gray hull folded back like flower petals, exposing gleaming metal beneath. Hidden, weapon ports opened along the sides like hungry mouths. The ship's real size became clear as sections extended and unfolded. "What in the void is happening?" Rex demanded. His science officer stared at the readings in shock. "Sir, the vessel is changing. It appears to have been disguised. The real ship is much larger than we thought." "How much larger?" "At least twice the size, Admiral, maybe more, and the energy readings are spiking dramatically." Rex felt a cold knot form in his stomach. This was not some primitive relic. This was something that had been built to deceive them. Inside the human ship, Commander Haran called out readings from her station. "All systems online, Captain. Weapons ready. Targets locked." "How many targets?" Jinha asked calmly. "All of them, sir." Jinha nodded. The human crew worked with quiet efficiency around him. No shouting, no panic, no wasted motion. They had trained for this moment their entire lives. "Fire," he said simply. The indomitable will unleashed hell. But these were not the energy weapons the Union expected. Instead, the human ship fired metal. Projectiles, kinetic rounds that moved at incredible speed. Each bullet was a work of engineering art, guided by its own computer brain and powered by a tiny fusion reactor. The Union had forgotten why kinetic weapons were dangerous. Their shields were designed to stop energy beams and plasma bolts. Against solid objects moving at near light speed, those shields were useless. The first salvo hit 17 Union ships. They did not explode. They simply stopped existing. Admiral Rex watched in horror as proud warships, each one the size of a city, were torn apart at the molecular level. The human weapons did not just punch holes in the hulls. They broke down the very atoms that made up the ships, turning metal and plastic into expanding clouds of dust. "Impossible," whispered Commander Yilmoth. "How can primitive weapons do that?" Rex did not answer. He was too busy trying to understand how his perfect formation had just lost 17 ships in the space of a heartbeat. "All vessels, evasive maneuvers," he shouted. "Return fire, all weapons, maximum power." The Grand Fleet tried to respond. Plasma cannons fired brilliant beams across space. Quantum torpedoes streaked toward the human vessel. Particle beams lanced out like spears of pure energy. Every shot missed. The indomitable will moved like a living thing, twisting and turning through space with impossible grace. It was not just fast, it was smart. The ship seemed to know where each attack was aimed before the Union gunners fired. And while it dodged, it continued to kill. More kinetic rounds flew from the human weapon ports. Each shot was perfectly aimed, perfectly timed. Union ships died. One after another, their hulls dissolved into atomic mist. "Status report," Rex demanded. "We have lost 43 vessels, Admiral," his tactical officer reported. "The enemy ship is moving too fast to target properly." Our weapons cannot lock on. What about the close attack ships? Can they get in range? They are trying, sir, but... His words were cut off as a squadron of Union fighters simply vanished. The human ship had fired some kind of area weapon, a burst of energy that turned the small craft into expanding spheres of light. Inside the indomitable will, the crew worked with deadly precision. Harin called out target priorities while Quan coordinated with the ship's artificial intelligence. The AI was learning from every exchange, adapting its tactics faster than any living mind could think. Their formation is breaking apart, Harin reported. They are trying to scatter. Do not let them, Jinha ordered. We want survivors, but not many. The human ship's weapons changed again. Instead of single shots, it began firing swarms of smaller projectiles. Each swarm tracked a different Union vessel, following them through their evasive maneuvers like metal bloodhounds. Rex watched his fleet die. Ships that had taken years to build and centuries to perfect were being destroyed in minutes. His beautiful formations were falling apart as captains panicked and tried to flee. "Admiral," his communications officer called out desperately. "The outer perimeter ships are requesting permission to retreat." "Denied," Rex shouted. "We outnumber them 10,000 to 1. We can overwhelm them with sheer numbers." But numbers meant nothing when the enemy could kill faster than you could shoot back. The indomitable will showed no mercy. It moved through the Union formation like a shark through a school of fish, its weapons reaching out to touch ship after ship with deadly precision. Some vessels tried to ram it, hoping to use their size advantage. The human ship simply moved aside and watched them fly past into empty space. After 5 minutes of slaughter, something new happened. The human ship stopped firing its kinetic weapons and activated something even worse. Strange devices along its hull began to glow with dark energy. When they fired, Union ships did not disintegrate. Instead, they aged. Rex watched in horror as a brand new dreadnought suddenly rusted and crumbled, like it had been floating in space for 1,000,000 years. Another ship simply collapsed as its metal hull became brittle and weak. "What kind of weapon is that?" he whispered. His science officer had no answer. The Union had never seen anything like it. They had energy weapons and kinetic weapons and even some exotic matter disruptors. But weapons that could manipulate time itself? That was beyond their understanding. The human ship was not finished showing off its arsenal. Next came the gravity weapons. Union vessels found themselves crushed by impossible forces, their hulls compressed into balls of super-dense metal. Others were torn apart by artificial black holes that appeared and disappeared in seconds. Finally, the worst weapon of all emerged from the indomitable will. Clouds of tiny machines, each one smaller than a grain of sand, poured out from hidden ports. These nanites swarmed over dying Union ships, breaking them down atom by atom and rebuilding the raw materials into new ammunition for the human weapons. The Union fleet was not just being destroyed, it was being eaten. Rex looked at his tactical display and felt his heart sink. In 8 minutes, his fleet of 10,000 had been reduced to less than 100 ships. The survivors were scattered across the battlefield, their formation completely broken. "Admiral," his tactical officer said quietly, "we cannot win this fight." Rex knew it was true, but he also knew surrender was not an option. The Union did not surrender. They fought to the last ship, to the last man. "All remaining vessels," he broadcast across the fleet, "concentrate fire on the enemy ship. Everything we have." The surviving Union ships turned as one and fired every weapon they possessed. The space around the indomitable will lit up with enough energy to melt a moon. When the light faded, the human ship was still there. Its hull was not even scratched. And now it was talking. A voice came through the darkness of space, speaking perfect Union standard with calm authority. "Admiral Rex of the Grand Fleet, this is Captain Jinha of the human vessel Indomitable Will. You have witnessed humanity's return to the galaxy." Rex stared at his communication screen in shock. Human? The word hit him like a physical blow. He knew that name from the old records, from history files that were centuries old. "Impossible," he whispered. "Humans are extinct. Your homeworld went dark 300 years ago. We have the records, we know what happened. Jinha's voice came back, cold and patient. Your records are wrong, Admiral. Humanity does not die quietly. We adapt. We learn. We grow stronger. Rex felt his hands shaking. Around his bridge, his surviving officers stared at their screens in disbelief. The name human was in their history, books, but only as a footnote. A primitive species that had been contacted once and then disappeared. But the silence, Rex said. Your world stopped transmitting. No signals, no ships, nothing. For 3 centuries, nothing. We chose silence, Admiral. Your union made it clear that humanity was not welcome in your galaxy. You cut off our trade. You blocked our ships from your space. You waited for us to die alone in the dark. Communications Officer Kwan's voice joined the conversation from the human ship. We did not die, Admiral. We watched. We learned. We prepared. Rex looked at his tactical display. Less than 90 Union ships remained from his fleet of 10,000. The human vessel sat in the middle of the destruction like a predator among its kills, its weapons still glowing with deadly energy. What do you want? Rex asked, his voice barely a whisper. To talk, Jinha replied. But first let me show you something. The human ship moved again, but this time it was not attacking. Instead, it activated some kind of projection system. Holographic images appeared in the space around both fleets, showing scenes that made Rex's blood turn cold. The first image showed Earth, humanity's homeworld, but it was not the primitive planet from the old records. This Earth was covered with massive cities that reached into the sky. Orbital stations hung around it like metal moons. Shipyards stretched across continents, building vessels that dwarfed even Union dreadnoughts. This is what you thought was dead, Admiral, Jinha's voice explained. This is what 300 years of isolation created. The next image showed the inside of the human shipyards. Thousands of vessels like the indomitable Will sat in construction bays. Some were even larger, bristling with weapons that Rex could not identify. How many ships? Rex asked, though he dreaded the answer. Enough, was Jinha's simple reply. More images followed. Human colonies on worlds Rex had never heard of. Mining operations in star systems that were not on any Union map. Entire fleets of human vessels moving through hyperspace routes the Union thought were empty. You have been busy, Rex said weakly. We had 300 years to work, Admiral. 300 years to plan. 300 years to prepare for this moment. The images changed again. Now they showed Union ships, but from angles that should have been impossible. Internal layouts, weapon specifications, crew quarters, even the private ready rooms of Union admirals. How do you have these images? Rex demanded. Commander Haren's voice answered him. We have been watching you for a very long time, Admiral. Every Union ship that passed near our space we studied. Every communication you broadcast we recorded. Every weakness in your defenses we cataloged. Rex felt sick. The Union had thought they were the masters of the galaxy, but they had been under observation for centuries. Every move they made, every ship they built, every tactic they developed had been watched and analyzed by human intelligence. The probes, Rex realized suddenly. The sensor sweeps we sent into the outer rim. You intercepted them. We captured them, Jinha confirmed. We took them apart. We learned how your technology works. Then we sent them back with our own modifications. Rex understood now. For decades, the Union had been receiving false sensor data from their own equipment. The humans had been feeding them lies, making them believe the outer rim was empty and safe. Every probe you sent taught us something new about Union technology, Kwan added. Every surveillance sweep showed us your military formations and patrol routes. You gave us everything we needed to plan your destruction. The holographic displays changed one more time. Now they showed battle simulations, computer models of human ships fighting Union fleets. Rex watched scenario after scenario play out, each one ending with complete human victory. You have been planning this specific battle? Rex asked. We have been planning for every possible battle, Haren replied. Every Union formation, every ship class, every weapon system. We know how you fight because you taught us. Jake Morrison's voice joined the conversation. Rex had not heard from him before, but the engineer's words carried a different kind of threat. We know how to kill every ship in your fleet, Admiral. We know which systems to target to disable your weapons. We know how to break your shields and pierce your armor. We know because we designed our weapons specifically to counter yours. Rex looked around his bridge. His officers were listening to every word, and he could see the fear in their alien faces. They had always believed the Union was invincible. Now they were learning that everything they thought they knew was wrong. What do you want from us? Rex asked again. Recognition, Jinha said simply. The Union declared humanity extinct without bothering to check if it was true. You wrote us out of your history books. You pretended we never existed. That changes now, Harin added. Humanity will take its place in the galaxy, with or without Union permission. Rex felt a spark of his old authority return. The Union will never accept. His words were cut off as the human ship fired a single shot. Not at any Union vessel, but at an asteroid floating nearby. The rock, which had been roughly the size of a city, simply ceased to exist. You misunderstand the situation, Admiral, Jinha said calmly. This is not a negotiation. This is a notification. We are informing you of the new reality. The galaxy belongs to the Union, Rex said desperately. The galaxy belongs to whoever is strong enough to hold it, Jinha replied. For 300 years that was you. Now it is us. Rex looked at his tactical screen one more time. 87 ships left from 10,000. His beautiful grand fleet had been reduced to scattered survivors in less than 10 minutes. What happens to my remaining ships? He asked. That depends on you, Admiral. You have a choice. You can return to Union space and deliver our message to your leaders, or you can continue fighting and join the rest of your fleet in death. Rex knew it was not really a choice at all. He could order his surviving ships to attack, but they would all die for nothing. Or he could swallow his pride and become a messenger for humanity's return. And the message? Simple, Jinha said. Humanity is no longer asking for its place in the galaxy. We are taking it. The Union can adapt to this new reality, or the Union can be replaced by something that will. The human ship began to move away from the battlefield, leaving the Union survivors alone among the wreckage of their former glory. Remember this moment, Admiral. Jinha's voice called across the void. Remember what happens when you underestimate humanity. We gave you 300 years of peace. Do not make us take it away. The indomitable will disappeared into hyperspace, leaving Rex to contemplate the ruins of everything he had believed about the galaxy and humanity's place in it. Admiral Rex sat in his damaged command chair, staring at the empty space where 10,000 ships had once floated. The silence on his bridge was complete. No one spoke. No one moved. They were all trying to understand what had just happened to their perfect world. Admiral, his communications officer finally whispered. What are your orders? Rex did not answer immediately. What orders could he give? His fleet was destroyed. His enemy had vanished into hyperspace. And he was supposed to carry a message back to the Union leadership that would change everything. Set course for Union Central Command, he said finally. Best possible speed. Sir, his tactical officer asked carefully. What do we tell them? Rex closed his eyes. What could he tell them? That humanity was not extinct? That they had been watching and learning for 3 centuries? That a single human ship had destroyed the greatest military force in galactic history? We tell them the truth, Rex said. All of it. The surviving Union ships limped away from the battlefield, leaving behind clouds of atomic dust that had once been their comrades. Rex knew this moment would be remembered forever. The day the Union learned they were not alone. The day they learned they were not the strongest. 3 days later, Rex stood before the Union High Council on the capital world of Nexus Prime. The great chamber was filled with representatives from all 17 species, their alien faces showing confusion and disbelief as Rex finished his report. Impossible, declared Council Leader Vexistar. a tall insectoid creature whose species had helped found the Union. Humans have been extinct for centuries. We have confirmed this. We confirmed nothing, Rex replied quietly. We assumed. We saw their world go silent and decided they had died. We never bothered to check. Even if they survived, said another council member. They were a primitive species. They had no advanced technology, no military power. How could they possibly? They learned, Rex interrupted. For 300 years they watched us. They studied every ship that passed near their space. They analyzed every communication we broadcast. They turned our own technology against us. The council chamber erupted in angry voices. Some members refused to believe Rex's story. Others demanded immediate military action. A few sat in stunned silence, beginning to understand what this meant for the Union's future. "Order!" shouted Vextar. "Admiral Rex, you claim a single human ship destroyed your entire fleet. The Grand Fleet was the most powerful military force in the galaxy." "Was," Rex said simply. "Not anymore." He activated the holographic display in the center of the chamber. Images from the battle played out in 3 dimensions, showing the systematic destruction of Union vessels by weapons they had never seen before. The council members watched in growing horror as their proud ships were torn apart by kinetic rounds, aged to dust by temporal weapons, and crushed by artificial gravity fields. They saw the nanite swarms consuming the wreckage and turning it into more ammunition for the human weapons. "These weapons," whispered the Quindar representative, "some of them should not be possible. Time manipulation, gravity control, matter, conversion. No species has ever achieved such technology. Humans have," Rex said. The chamber fell silent again. Everyone was thinking the same thing. If humanity could build weapons like these, what else could they do? "What do they want?" asked Vextar finally. Rex straightened in his uniform. This was the hardest part of his message to deliver. Recognition as a full member of the galactic community, territorial rights to their claimed space, and reparations for 3 centuries of enforced isolation. "Reparations?" The Corvani representative's voice was filled with outrage. "They attack our fleet and then demand payment?" "They defended themselves," Rex corrected. "We fired the first shots. They responded in kind." "This is unacceptable," declared another council member. "The Union does not negotiate with terrorists." "They are not terrorists," Rex said, his voice growing harder. "They are survivors. They are what happens when you abandon a species to die and they refuse to stay dead." Before anyone could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the chamber. Emergency lights flashed as security officers rushed in with urgent reports. "Council leader," one of them announced, "we are receiving reports from across Union space. Unknown ships are appearing in multiple star systems." Vextar's compound eyes widened in alarm. "How many ships?" "Hundreds, sir. Possibly thousands. All matching the design of the vessel that attacked the Grand Fleet." The council members looked at each other in growing panic. If Rex was telling the truth about human capabilities, then hundreds of such ships could destroy every Union world in a matter of days. "Are they attacking?" Vextar asked. "No, sir, they are just watching. Waiting." Rex nodded grimly. This was exactly what he had expected. The humans were making a statement. They were showing the Union that Earth's children were everywhere, that they had been hidden among the stars for centuries and that they could strike anywhere at any time. "They want an answer to their demands," Rex said, "and they want it now." The council chamber erupted in arguments again. Some members wanted to fight, to mobilize every Union ship against the human threat. Others wanted to negotiate, to find some way to avoid war with an enemy they did not understand. But a few of the wiser council members were already beginning to accept the new reality. "How do we know they will honor any agreement we make?" asked the Velthari representative. "Because they could have killed me," Rex replied. "They could have destroyed every ship in my fleet, but they left survivors. They left witnesses. They want the Union to continue existing, but under new terms." "What terms?" Rex looked around the chamber at the faces of species who had ruled the galaxy for 3 centuries. Soon they would have to learn to share that rule with humanity. Equality, he said simply. They want to be treated as equals, not as extinct, primitives or dangerous outsiders. They want their place at this table. And if we refuse? Rex thought about the human weapons, about the nanite swarms and the temporal disruptors. He thought about the images of Earth's massive shipyards and the fleets of vessels that could appear anywhere in Union space. Then we will join the other, extinct species in the history books, he said quietly. The debate continued for hours, but the outcome was never really in doubt. The Union could adapt to humanity's return, or the Union could be replaced by something that would. In the end, they chose to adapt. 1 month later, the first human ambassador arrived at Nexus Prime. Captain Jin Ha walked into the same council chamber where Rex had delivered his warning, but now he wore diplomatic clothes instead of a military uniform. The Union High Council stood as he entered, a sign of respect they had never shown to any newcomer before. Jinha took his place at the council table, representing not just humanity, but the promise that the galaxy could be shared by those strong enough to claim their place in it. "Welcome," said Council Leader Vextar, though the word seemed to stick in his throat. Jinha nodded calmly. "Thank you. It is good to finally be home." Outside the council chamber, human ships continued their silent patrol of Union space. They were no longer unknown vessels drifting in the darkness. They were guardians of a new galactic order, one where humanity would never again be forgotten or abandoned. The galaxy had learned to remember humanity's name, and they would never forget it again.